trying to find a way that's like kind of not in the way, but also in view and easily accessible.
Easily accessible.
That's what we need. Ease of access. Like the world today. It's easy. It's convenient. That's
Easy
all we want.
Easy and convenience is what everybody wants.
Yep.
That's it, man.
DoorDash. Why we pay $5 extra per item.
And then
so we can get
$10 extra to have for the delivery.
And then the tip.
Stupid.
Instead of driving 2 minutes to go get your food, pick it up yourself.
Or just cook it.
Or just cook it yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a dying art.
I saw somewhere somebody was talking about, like, on average, an average meal cooked at home costs somebody about $3. An average meal out right now costs about $15.
Yeah.
So you're paying
what, 5 times?
Five times the cost for convenience. Yep.
And probably worse quality food. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, in general, yeah. I mean, unless you're, that's definitely true of most people. I mean, I guess you can actively macro shop. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Fast food places. Chick-fil-A's closed right now here, so
it is.
That's probably the easiest one.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently found some hacks at McAllister's and at Jersey Mike's.
That makes sense.
That were macro-friendly.
They have like wraps.
No, actually sandwiches. The chicken Philly at Jersey Mike's, an incredibly large amount of protein. It definitely still high in fat and carbs, but the fat per gram of protein ratio is pretty on point.
Right.
You do have to save some calories for it. Both sandwiches are about 800, but both of them land at about 60 grams of protein and about 30 fat. So
it's not too bad.
No,
it's not
at all. So, I mean, you can do it, but most people aren't shopping that way for food. So
no, they're just like, what tastes?
Exactly.
What has the most fat on it so I can slide it down my throat?
Gotta go down that gullet easy, baby. Ease and convenience. That's what.
Can I just dip this bread in some mayo and just slide it down my throat?
I would probably do that.
That sounds terrible.
I like mayo.
Fucking gross. I hate mayo.
I've ate a lot less of it. It pointlessly tanks my calories.
Yeah. Yeah, just for not even...
It's like adding 150 calories to a sandwich.
Yeah. For just a bunch of fat, really.
Yeah, for no real, productive calorie.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
You heard it here first, folks. Mayonnaise, not macro-friendly.
It is not, no. It is
Even
not.
light mayonnaise is probably not that great.
No, probably isn't.
It's probably still pretty high in fat. I mean, it's all it really is fat.
Yeah, it's literally oil, egg, and vinegar, lemon. That's what if you were to make it homemade. So,
yeah. Bunch of fat.
Just a bunch of fat. Pretty much
Feeling
like
that.
me. Yep.
Feeling that right
Yeah,
now.
we ate ate pretty well outside of our macros today, I'd imagine.
So I've only eaten twice today. So I don't know. I might be able to salvage it somehow if I eat 10 cans of tuna or something.
Yeah, I'm not gonna salvage it today.
But I'm on the same boat. I'm just gonna kind of eat.
Today basically ended up being my 4th of July celebration though, because 4th of July ends up, it's in the middle of the week this year.
It's on Tuesday.
I'm working all day tomorrow, so it'll be pretty much spot on macros tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tuesday, at that point in the middle of the week, it's just not terribly convenient to cook again. So whatever gets meal prep's what getting eaten on Tuesday.
That's fair.
Just is what it is. So we had our grilled burgers and grilled hot dogs.
Yep.
And banana pudding ice cream.
Banana pudding ice cream. That shit was good.
It was so fucking good. It was so good.
Man, I'm telling you, you make it into a milkshake.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think it needs another banana. If you did a milkshake, you need some
extra
whole milk, an extra banana, and a little bit of cinnamon.
Yeah, that'd probably
would
be
set it
good.
off.
That'd be dope.
It would. It tastes like banana nut bread if you do it that way.
Yeah, I guess it would.
Yeah, I mean, all things are there to make banana nut bread at that point, So,
what's really interesting about it is there's the banana ice cream, and then there's the whipped topping, kind of like. Did you notice that in the swirls, it's yellow and white?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be meringue, right?
Yeah, but it depends on the style of banana pudding. Most people just use whipped cream, but yeah. Could be meringue.
Meringue is just...
It's just
egg.
Yeah, it's burnt egg.
Burnt egg and sugar. That's all it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh.
It does kind of make a key lime pie awesome, though. That's one of my all-time favorite desserts.
I love key lime pie.
It's fucking good.
Key lime pie, lemon meringue pie, all that shit.
Key lime's pretty much pinnacle for me.
That's the goat for you?
That's probably one of my favorite desserts. It's hard to say it's my favorite, but it's probably one of my favorites.
Oh, man. Favorite dessert would be hard.
I really like those fucking cake balls.
Cake balls are really good, honestly. Especially if they make them right and they're really moist.
I mean, it's cake and cream cheese. It's kind of hard to fuck it up. And then you get people that do the same thing with the Oreos around Christmas time. And they like white chocolate dip them. Yeah. That shit's pretty good.
They sell those.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They have like the covered Oreos, is what I think is what they call them.
The covered white chocolate Oreos? Yeah, I've seen those. But I'm talking about like Oreo balls where the people add the cream cheese to them. Yeah. It's just like the cake balls. It's just ground up Oreos.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had those before. Those are
really fucking good.
I was just thinking about like a dipped Oreo.
Dipped Oreos are fucking fantastic too. There's no way to fuck up an Oreo.
We could find a way.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of. I will eat it. I like a York peppermint patty, but outside of that, I'm not a really big fan of mint.
You don't like the mint Oreos?
Mm-mm.
I'll do a mint Oreo blizzard from Dairy Queen. I can get behind that.
Trying to think about that. I'm also really weird about artificially flavored peanut butter, not real peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of peanut butter Oreos. I like regular Oreos in peanut butter.
What about a peanut butter Oreo blizzard?
Yeah, but then that's real peanut butter.
Yeah.
I don't want peanut butter filling in my Oreo.
That's fair.
Little fucking weird.
Yeah.
It just doesn't taste, it tastes more like a burnt clutch than it does like peanut butter.
I've never heard a peanut
artificial
butter
peanut, but that's the reason I don't do, and it's not artificial. That's the reason I don't like peanut butter in baked goods. Like a peanut butter cookie that's had peanut butter baked into it.
Yeah.
I don't care for that. It's just weird after it's been like burnt.
What about a peanut butter pie?
Yeah, that doesn't get cooked though. Most of the time that's a chilled pie. So.
Well, I guess it depends.
I think the only way I've ever had it is like
it's just like whipped and
cream, basically a cheese, like a cream cheese pie, not really like a cheesecake, with peanut butter and sweetened condensed milk whipped in it. And Mom always had crunchy peanut butter. And then
so you got that little yeah.
So like, but it doesn't ever get cooked like that. So it's
right, yeah, that's fair.
Peanut butter and ice cream, same way. It doesn't get cooked, so I'm okay. I'm weird about a peanut butter cookie though. Don't particularly care for it.
I can do peanut butter cookies. I'm not particularly crazy about them unless they're like filled with something like chocolate chips or Reese's Pieces or something like that.
I like a wild cookie, but my two favorite cookies is the plainest two cookies you can do is chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin.
Oatmeal raisin.
Yeah, I like an oatmeal raisin cookie.
It's not, it's funny. When I worked at Jimmy John's, I had a guy who was a driver, and he always just like, oh, oatmeal raisin's just way better than chocolate chip. And I'm like,
better? No.
Yeah, I was just like, what?
No, not better.
What?
And I do like an M&M cookie.
Yeah.
But then that's just a gay pride chocolate chip cookie, pretty much. June's over. I'm sorry.
like those memes of the company that are like, all right, like,
yeah, that was the sip it rip it plug for the entire month that we missed.
Yeah. We didn't do anything, did we?
We ate a M&M cookie for Pride Month. That's what we did.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
So we did nothing. Let's just be honest. We didn't do anything for Pride Month.
We are the way we are year round.
We
have to be politically correct. We can't say
we're fascists.
We're not. We're not. Although that's probably the easy way out for some people that would lose it arguing with us.
Yeah, you're just a fascist. I am who I am. I feel like we're both very like middle ground when it comes to politics. So
everything's right until it isn't.
That's true.
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, there's extremes you can go in every direction, and I think that, without getting too political, I think that some things that left-leaners support and believe in were right until they were wrong.
Yeah.
Because I've talked often about how I believe in gay rights and stuff like that. And
yeah, that's what the whole like.
I believe in trans rights.
The trans athlete episode, that's basically what we said.
I still believe though that your rights end where someone else's begin, and that was the problem with the trans athlete discussion, is that you are then taking advantage of somebody else's rights.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
exactly.
it is what it is.
So we had, well, let's go ahead and say, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast, guys.
Yeah.
We've had a tangent going on for a minute, and
we missed Pride Month. That's
the long and short is that we missed Pride Month, and peanut butter cookies taste weird to Zach. That's pretty much what you missed if you skip ahead.
Yep.
I'm Nathan. That's Zach.
I'm Zach.
At Nathan Skedios on Instagram, at ZG
underscore Summer Shred Journey.
Yeah.
I think I'm about to change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes
I'm
sense.
Temporarily out of the Summer Shred.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to keep saying that goddamn handle.
And then the podcast at Sip and Rip It. We post some memes sometimes.
We do post memes.
Huh?
We do post memes.
Sometimes.
I wonder if that's going to hear. Is it picking up? Oh, it picked up.
Yeah, it's picking up. Yeah, scratching is picking up. Also, if you like,
I do that a lot.
Too. Yeah.
That's what it is. Play y'all a little song.
play a little song.
Ditty.
Speaking of songs, we had a listener ask a question about some songs, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think we probably should wait until meat and potatoes on that, though.
Oh, you don't want to mention it now?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get on into it. I figure we'll save it for PR song time because it's a fitting.
That's
moment,
fair.
You know
That's
what I mean?
fair. That's fair. That's fair.
So, what did you do in the gym this week?
Me, I fixed my goddamn squat. Is what I did.
You did, or Joe did?
Joe did. Joe told me how to fix my squat. But no. So we had a really productive day on Tuesday. I want to say, because I didn't go on Monday because I was having a really fucking bad 2 days with my lawnmower. So I didn't make it to the gym on Monday. Tuesday I went in pretty frustrated just by everything that was going on. And I was talking to Joe while I was warming up, trying to figure out what we can do about my squat. And we had come to the conclusion about gluteal amnesia. That may have been the week prior. I can't remember that we came to that conclusion. He gave me some homework to do, and I kind of tried to do it, and I got back with him. I was like, I'm not really feeling anything. Okay, well, do you feel it at all? I think I was walking on the treadmill while I was talking to him. And he said, well, push your hips forward, kind of like get that clench feeling, and, really like straighten your legs when you bring your foot up. And I said, okay. And I could feel it. And I'm like, yeah, I can feel it there. And he's like, okay, so just kind of keep doing that and hold on to that feeling because that's what you're looking for. And I said, okay. Finished that up, went to my warm-ups, did all my warm-ups. In the middle of my warm-ups, when I was doing split squats, I was like, I can really feel my glutes all of a sudden. I was just like, okay, something's connecting here. So I'm getting that mind-muscle connection into my glutes. Then I go to squat. Just fucking perfect. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. I just really got glute activation. Had none of that wink. Like, everything was smooth. Everything felt great. I had no low back pain. Like, it was like a miracle. I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it just out of nowhere, just like completely fixed. And I'd been working with him for, excuse me, it was about a month now. And just like everything. And this whole week has kind of been that way because didn't really have anything for my bench press. There's nothing really wrong with my bench press. They're probably my best lift out of all of them, to be honest with you. And then Friday, I was doing deadlifts, and I sent him, and I was like I was getting pretty pumped because like I was getting the bar floating off the floor, and I was like, this is awesome, I'm like getting real good slack pulling stuff. And he said, hey, well, I was doing that, and then when I got to my working sets, I was getting frustrated because I could feel the bar pulling me forward. My back was kind of rounding a little bit, and I told him, I was like, I'm getting a little frustrated about this, and bitched about it a little bit. And he looked at it, and he said, all you need to do is like take a half step back. And I was like,
that's something Ron had talked about. Ron changing that.
Yeah, Ron said that for you, and I never really thought that I needed that. Like, I didn't think it was an issue. Took a step back, pulled. I was like, holy shit. And it was just like a different deadlift.
So for the record, y'all, he's talking about physically taking like a half step back. So we're talking about 3 to 6 inches depending on the person.
So for me, it essentially, and this is something that we talk about all the time, is mid-foot is where the bar should be sitting. That's where it was sitting.
Yeah.
So really, I had just been not following my own advice and not being midfoot. I just got a little closer to the bar than that. So he said, yeah, just take a little half step back and really focus on pushing your knees forward and getting that into the bar. And my positioning was so much better. There was no low back pain, which deadlifts don't really bother my low back that much anyway, but it significantly felt better, felt more drive out of my quads. Just like overall, just like a really productive week as far as fixing my form. And this was the last week I am working on this block with him. So I have no idea what's going on with the next block. And I won't know until tomorrow or Tuesday. So,
fair.
What about your week?
Continuing with RP bodybuilding for the most part, or RP hypertrophy, or whatever you want to call it. It's good. Trying to rectify my squats. Yesterday they felt ridiculously heavy. I do have a knee problem right now, but it's not affecting my squats or my lunges or any lower body work, except for I can't really do leg extensions that well.
Yeah.
I think it's that patellofemoral syndrome or whatever that runner's knee, I think is what some people call it. So it was from wearing, it wasn't a gym injury, it's from wearing slides too much. So
that's interesting.
Well, it's been the worst. It's the worst flare up I've ever had, but this is something that flares up in me often if I have to wear, and I do wear boots sometimes in the winter if I wear boots for more than 1 or 2 days in a row, something like that. So while my knee's not injured, it's pissed off.
Right.
It feels very unstable. It feels like I'm walking around with my knee injected full of crunchy peanut butter.
Oof.
But I mean, there's no pain in a squat.
Right.
There's no like lateral pain. It's not painful to touch anywhere. So it's just, I think that's probably all it is.
Yeah.
So
that's just a really weird analogy. Is crunchy peanut butter.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Another analogy is you ever step in mud and like your foot kind of sucks to the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that all the time.
Okay.
Yep. So not real fun, but
no.
It's just pissed off. I don't think there's anything detrimentally wrong or anything. So that's what it is.
Kind of like ease up a little bit and let it do its
Upper
thing.
body strength is really good. Lower body strength probably it's hard to tell because I'm not deadlifting right now. I feel like my lower body strength is good. I'm just
dealing with
little
pain.
Deconditioning of squats, trying to get used to squatting without a mirror, which sounds like a ridiculous thing for a power lifter, but we do squat facing a mirror a lot, and I didn't realize how much I counted on that for
depth.
Not just for depth, but checking my upper body position and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm used to relying on visual cues where I should be relying on,
what you feel.
How I feel. Yeah, absolutely. So it almost feels like I'm brand new to it and relearning how to squat in a lot of ways, which is probably good for me.
It's what I've been doing for a whole month. Is just relearning how to squat. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about some of the things that Joe's brought up with you before as being possibilities. We didn't really look into them too much, but I'm actually working on several of the same things myself.
Yeah.
So mainly the hips more of a hips forward position.
Yeah.
Hips under you.
Yeah.
Not really forward, but hips under you.
It really makes a difference on how your glutes activate is the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Yeah,
because you automatically just get that squeeze when you push your hips forward, and if you can stay there. One thing that really got me, so I always grab the floor, now that I'm putting my hips below me, and I really am thinking about pushing my knees out, and I'm like driving extremely hard my knees out, and that's making a huge difference in my positioning overall.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I think these are things, me and you've both done, obviously I've done a lot of coaching, but me and you both done a little bit of coaching. I think these things are easier to identify in somebody else than they are in yourself.
Yeah, I think so too. And
we wasn't 100% sure when we talked about it with yours, but that's something we did. Right there at the beginning with Joe, I think you were in the shop when we discovered the pelvic tilt or the hips forward thing. Yeah. That's something that we've discussed before. I mean, you can see it in other people better than you can feel it in yourself.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the biggest thing is feeling it, because if I didn't know what to feel, that was the biggest thing. Is I just didn't know I was supposed to be feeling a certain way that like at the start of a squat and at the end of a squat.
Yeah.
And then when we kind of came across that, it was like, obviously, right? But if you don't know what you're looking for or what you're trying to feel for, and you don't know how it feels, it's really hard to make that kind of assessment.
Yeah, it for sure is. Like I said, I feel like it's easier to see in somebody than it is to feel in yourself. So I know a lot of people probably, especially if you're another coach, you're probably rolling your eyes about all this, but let's be honest, like you probably ain't that great at feeling it yourself either.
No.
It's much, much easier when you're accustomed to seeing it than it is rectifying it in yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're equipped like me and Nathan are to have the exact tools we need to fix it in ourselves. It helps to have somebody else see it.
Yeah. Because really,
and then it helps even more to be able to, like from now on, you're always going to be able to identify this now that you know how to identify this, like in yourself. You know what I mean? Like you'll know when you've done it and when you haven't. You know? So, but that's a lot harder skill to develop than seeing it in somebody else, whether or not they're doing it or not.
Yeah.
So
visual cues are a lot easier.
A lot easier, yeah. And then being honest on it, you tend to lie to yourself when you're going through these things too.
Yeah, because you don't. A lot of times it's like, well, that's not my problem. It's got to be something more complicated. I'm better than that. Like,
you overthink it.
I'm better than the basic problems. That's what it boils down to, and I definitely think
even if you know that's not true, sometimes it's just frustrating because like you're stronger in the bad position for the moment.
Right.
That's the issue I'm having a hard time with. Like, I'm basically relearning how to squat. Like, I know I can squat 5 plates right now, but and I'm having a hard time squatting 3 with the right way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I think hell, on the SSB the other day, I worked up for a single at 330, so it was 3 plates on the SSB bar. It's not a heavy squat.
Right.
Like, but because I'm trying to force new positions, it was fucking god awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is what it is. But like, it's a shot to your ego to fix things that need to be fixed sometimes.
Yeah.
Sucks.
That's one thing I'm really glad about getting, because I was talking about getting with Joe sooner than, or I was actually originally planning on only having him for 3 months to do a peak, and then things got so bad with my low back that I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, I gotta get with him and like fix this, because if anyone's gonna fix this, Joe Sullivan is the guy to fix your squat. Like, I'm just gonna tell you right now. And it was so easy too. It's crazy to think about it, because how long was I trying to fix my squat for? Like months.
Yeah, but we probably had it was 3 to 6 months. It's hard to tell, really. Probably most of 2023.
He fixed it in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like he just identified, he was very able to identify, because he's so knowledgeable about it. He was very easily able to identify every single thing that was going wrong just by a couple of videos and the information I was feeding to him. And that just comes with experience. That's all that is.
That's a lot of experience. And I'll be honest with you, I think that you probably know this now, but since you're an advanced level athlete now, that comes with different problems than the majority of people I coach who are, I have women that total sub 1,000 and men that total sub 15 mostly as my clientele. They have a whole different set of problems than somebody that advanced like you do.
Right.
You and Austin have a much different set of circumstances and issues than my guy that just crossed 1,200.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
And that's the truth. So, like, I think Joe's a little bit more adapted to coaching a high-level athlete, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Most of us that are making our living at this are coaching a beginner and intermediates. Yeah. So, I mean, but Joe's different. Half his roster probably has an elite total. Yeah. So, he's used to coaching more advanced problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I would just say just the fact of it has close to a 900-pound squat now. Like that, he knows what it feels like. So if me describing what I'm feeling, he's going to be able to be like, oh, well, I know how that feels. So just do this. Like I'm sure he has fixed a lot of things about his own squat, or had somebody probably, he's been working with Jakey B for a while. So I don't know if maybe he helped him or anything at that point, but I mean, he's been through it essentially.
Yeah, well, regardless of where the experience comes from, the experience is there, and he knows how to rectify these things. So probably
a little bit of both. Probably firsthand and coaching experience and advanced level problems. But
yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, man. That was solid week in the gym. We definitely went on a tangent there, but I mean, it was probably informative, to be honest. You got a PR song?
Yeah. Just one? We doing
yeah, maybe.
Do a couple?
I have a few, but it's a bunch of new shit that I haven't really reviewed well enough yet. So
I don't.
I'm gonna give my one.
We'll do one. I'll have to pull up Spotify because I did not have
one. With my old age, I told you I've always been a metalhead, and I think I'm still more metal than hardcore, to be honest with you. But I'm no longer what I used to be, where I was like, you got to keep your hardcore out of my metal. I'm not like that anymore. I like some boneheaded shit, and hardcore is kind of fun and boneheaded, and that's kind of fun, and it's just makes me feel good. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have to sit and listen to it as intently as I do a metal album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
it can kind of be playing in the background. You're just hearing like the crunch.
It's serving a little bit more of an emotional need than it is like an intellectual one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my first one, and my new client, Joey Miller, I asked him, he's always been a hardcore kid. Fucking hardcore kids. I'm slowly becoming one, so I can't say that anymore. But he's always been a hardcore kid. Grew up playing in hardcore bands. That's how I know Joey initially before we both got into powerlifting. Yeah. But he sent me several recommendations of, half dozen bands or something. But one I really liked a whole lot was a band called Body Snatcher. And they have a new song. A single? Yeah, it's a single right now. I guess it's probably going to come out on an EP or something.
I'm going to get in trouble.
That's broke.
I'm going to get in trouble.
No, you ain't. Just, we got that double-sided tape dog. She'll never know. It'll be okay. Nathan just broke a coaster. We know she's not going to find out by listening to the podcast. She doesn't listen to the podcast.
But she asked me to bring them back. It just like the condensation on the bottom stuck to it.
Do you have it upside down? You have to, right? I mean, I guess we're the same thing either way, right? Stop talking about that. Just push it back together, dog. Nobody's going to know. We'll get the double-sided tape after it later.
Body Snatcher.
Yeah. Dead Rabbit by Body Snatcher is my PR song for the week. We have an interesting conversation that one of our listeners started about this too when we get done with our entries.
I am going to go with a classic nu metal song.
Nu metal? Oh my God.
It's okay. It's a band
I hope
we
it's
both
not
like.
Static X.
It's a band we both like.
It's not Static X.
It's Slipknot. It's Slipknot.
Okay, good. Slipknot.
But People Equal Shit by Slipknot.
That's pretty fucking good.
That song goes hard, man.
It does.
I don't know, man. There's something about just yelling how much people suck. Just like, I'm like, I get it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And I have a little bit of a tangent to go on, and it has to do with people in a general sense. I don't know when it started happening so much, but people are just fucking disgusting and have no hygiene. Nobody is washing their hands anymore.
That is a little gross. I
saw probably a 13, maybe 12-year-old kid go to the bathroom and walk out without washing his hands today in the gym. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Where are your parents so I can just slap them? Like, that is just gross. I just don't understand it.
So people equal shit.
People equal shit.
Probably shit on their hands.
They probably got shit on their hands because they're not washing them. God damn.
Yeah, so I mean...
Oh, like, I got another one. This is an actual shit story.
Oh God!
And this happened.
This should have gone to the beginning before we did the intro.
This happened Friday at work. So we have a toilet that's out.
Uh-oh.
There's a trash bag wrapped around it so that people know don't go to the bathroom.
Somebody shit on top of the trash bag.
They pulled the trash bag off, shit in the toilet, left it sitting there, and wrapped the trash bag around the handrail because it's one of the handicapped bathrooms. Just walked out.
People are savages.
It's just fucking gross, man. Like,
I mean, if we're going that way, I got one too.
Let's go. Shit stories.
Yeah, so first of all, this man is in his 90s. He's lived a long life. He barely knows who I am anymore. He's got dementia. But my granddad and my uncle came and visited me at my nutrition store in Coleman. And I have a rocking chair that I keep up there. It's like a fold-out rocker, like you'd take to like the racetrack or like to a sporting event or something. It's just a folding chair. It just happens to be a rocker chair, right? So granddad's 90-something years old. So, of course, when he comes in, I give him the comfortable seat. I get my ass up and I'm like, here, granddad, you can sit here. They're planning on staying with me for a half hour or so and talking and whatnot. About 5 minutes in, my granddad's like, well, I think it's time to leave. And my uncle's like, oh, okay, Dad, whatever, we'll go. He's like, say bye to everybody. And granddad got up and said bye to everybody and left. And about halfway to his car, I looked over at my rocker and I looked at granddad. I looked at my rocker, I looked at granddad, and there's shit in my rocker. And there's a brown spot in the back of the old man's pants. And my granddad literally came to my store to see me at work long enough to shit in my chair and leave.
That's a pretty.
It got first of all, the whole store got cleaned like thoroughly a couple of times, and then the chair has gotten cleaned. I almost feel like I've had to clean it every day before I can sit in it again. I'm back using the chair, but like, if that thought creeps up in my mind, like I have to like habitually clean it beforehand.
Oh man.
So yeah, he can't help it. So I'm not mad at him, but.
Speaking of old men shitting,
we really hit a stride here today.
So, I did not firsthand experience this, but I was told about this during my time at Walmart. There's an old guy walking around pushing his buggy, like getting groceries and stuff. Just stops in the middle of an aisle and just stands there. Shakes a turd out of his pant leg, keeps on walking.
Oh man, I've got worse than that. We're talking about grocery store stories. I used to work at a grocery store in high school, and then at the beginning of college, we had somebody.
It wasn't warehouse, was it?
It was.
It was.
Yeah, with Wes. Wes worked with me.
Okay, because I was thinking,
he always had to stock and redo aisles 13, 14, and 15, which is the easiest job in the store mostly because he was too baked to handle anything busier than that. I don't know if Wes was here during this time or not. But it actually caused like an uproar over who was going to clean this up. But we had an old man in a hover round, like the cart.
Yeah.
Who had a colostomy bag.
Busted.
And it left a trail of sewage.
Oh man.
All over the store. Yeah, that's one of them. And then another time,
one of them.
Somebody used the bathroom and they got it everywhere. I'm talking about like I don't remember it the way that everybody talks about it, but there are people that claim that it was on the ceiling and everything. And my friend Patty at the time was training a new cashier, and the cashiers were responsible for. I was a stock boy, so if anything happened on the floor, we were responsible for it. Bathrooms, though, break room, shit like that, cashiers did it. He was training a new cashier, opens up the men's restroom to a literal shitstorm like everywhere. And he's toward the end of his shift, and he's like, well, you know what to do. Knock yourself out. Just hands the mop off to the new girl and fucking clocks out and goes home.
Did she quit?
Not that I recall, but...
I probably would have quit. Just instantly right there. I've been like, you
at that
cannot
point,
pay
honestly,
me enough.
And you're in an industrial building, they have drains in the floor. Honest to God, at that point, I go get the water hose from the meat market. And if you don't know, all meat markets have to have it because they have to bleach and clean and everything at the end of the night. So they use a water hose and they just do an industrial drain and, clean it up that way. If it had been me, I'd have got the water hose out of the break room and just
sprayed it.
Bleached everything, put on the gloves up to my elbow, a mask if I could, and hose that shit out.
Just give me a hazmat suit, dude.
There is no damn way I'm doing that with a mop, though.
No. Doing it with a mop?
Ain't no way I'm doing it with a mop.
My brother had the exact same story. They had Burger King instead of grocery store. Poop stories.
People have no respect for anything, but
I just
let alone like public places.
I'm just curious what their bathroom.
Have you ever gone to the bathroom at a music festival?
No.
Fucking dirty ass fucking hippies.
I would never. I don't know that I could go.
I know hippie culture is like almost a little popular right now and all that shit, but man, that's fucking, if you've ever been to a music festival, you know that's the nastiest fucking human being alive.
You can probably smell them a mile away.
God damn. They have to use a bathroom after them. I mean, there's no sitting down at one of those.
Nah.
Like, if you have to go number 2, you hold it, period.
He's like, I'll find somewhere in the yard.
I will die
like,
of indigestion. I'll back up. My colon can rupture and I'll die of sepsis in this parking lot before I use one of those bathrooms. There's no way. No way I'm fucking doing that. I just feel like, especially, I used to go to like Warped Tour a lot.
Yeah.
And that was a very broad demographic of people. You would have like I was there for metal and hardcore bands, post-hardcore bands, stuff like that. And maybe here and there, like a few like pop punk bands and stuff like that. But there's a lot of ska, there's a lot of punk, like real crusty punk there. There's a lot of genres that kind of attract a gross demographic. Like real skinheads and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like not like This is not like I'm just talking shit about. They're like obviously not good people when you meet them too. These demographics I'm talking about, and I have to go use a restroom after them. Not okay. Sporting events are the same damn way though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heaven forbid you have to drop a deuce at a college football game.
Right. Yeah.
I can only imagine what the bathrooms in fucking Tuscaloosa look like.
Rather not find out. Be honest with you.
I ain't got a set of teeth in the whole fucking crowd, so I mean, I bet their aim's not that great.
Right. They just like, I'm in here.
The good thing about that, most of them are gone by halftime. So.
True.
Yeah,
we won. We're in the lead by 14.
Probably like 40.
Yeah, it depends on who they're playing, but
it is what it is. Still the world's most white trash demographic of anything. The other thing too, you know, I've never been a country music fan. I can imagine a country music concert is probably a trash place to have to use the bathroom.
It probably depends on the artist, if I had to guess. Like maybe some older, like more like I don't know, like people who've been around
There's
a while.
a lot of Bud Light and crystal meth in that fucking crowd, dude. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm out.
I don't think I've ever been. Well, I guess I've been to one concert where I didn't smell a whole bunch of weed and get warned about acid bubbles, but you know.
Oh well.
That was one of Wes's concerts, and that's because it was an all ages concert and it was indoors and small.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know, man. And
there was definitely some crazies.
Sporting events and concerts and stuff kind of give me the heebie-jeebies now anyway, that my anxiety is so bad and I get bad crowd anxiety. Yeah. So I'm probably, gonna secure a number 2 both immediately before and immediately after I go into.
Man, that's what Waffle House is for.
Yeah, I mean,
that
depends on I've been in some Waffle. Now the Waffle House I go frequent is pretty fucking clean, but Waffle Houses can be hit or miss.
That's true.
It can be hit or miss. Mine and down here in Good Hope, perfect place. It's the perfect Waffle House. Great staff, always clean, amazing place. Not all Waffle Houses are created equal.
That's true. Did you ever? This is another just going on a million tangents. You ever been seen the video of like the guy who's starting his own Waffle House and it's literally just a guy in an underpass with a grill and like a waffle maker. It's just like chilling, like it's like, he's got a sign that says Waffle House and he's like, yeah, what you want? And I'm just like, damn, bro.
That's not a Waffle House. That's a Waffle Home.
It's a waffle. What would it be? What would you call it? Under an underpass?
I don't know.
Or an overpass, I guess. Under an overpass. Under an underpass. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, we didn't mention our drinks today either.
We had strawberry bourbon smashes, and they were fucking nasty.
They weren't nasty.
I did follow somebody else's recipe. We did not discuss the recipe beforehand like we said we were going to, but it was strawberry simple syrup, 1 muddled strawberry, your favorite bourbon. We did not have our favorite bourbon. We just had a bourbon. Neither one of us liked that one particularly. A little too oaky for this drink. But bourbon, and I did use a little orange bitters, and you can top it with either ginger ale, Sprite, or club soda. So we used ginger ale. I think that complements the strawberry quite a bit. And honestly, I think it really helped that double oaked bourbon because that was a little too strong of a bourbon for that.
Yeah, for that style of
I think if we had done a really light soda like Sprite or club soda, I think it would have been undrinkable, to be honest with you. But
that's fair.
It's just what it is.
And then we kind of passed over. We're all over the place today. That question that our listener had. Yeah,
so Braxton, he listens to a lot of them, and Braxton is a much better person than me and Nathan. He's a good religious man. He's a very good one. Not a judgmental person at all. He's just an amazing human being. But he's a very godly man and somebody I respect quite a bit. But he asked the question. He wanted to know when we got on the dark path that our playlist obviously exudes.
So,
how did we go down that path to get as dark as our playlist is currently?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Mine will probably be long-winded, so you better start.
Okay, mine's very short. So, I grew up in a religious family, so it wasn't a whole lot of, well, I say I did grow up in a religious family, sort of. My dad was religious for a time period, and then he was not. He was not before he met my mother, and then after he was, and then a little later he was no longer a religious man. That being said, so when I first started listening to music, and it was I'll say this, I didn't have a lot of interest in music as a kid, like as 8, 9, 10 growing up. Just didn't have a whole lot of interest in music. I got to 12 or 13, and I was just watching American Idol with my mom. That was my music taste. So
it's changed dramatically.
So I listened to that stuff, but I didn't really get it, right?
Yeah.
So I listened to it because I was like, oh, this is what people do. They listen to music. I didn't really understand it. It's when my brother really started getting into music that I started getting into music, and he got into he got Metallica Ride the Lightning from my dad, and Master of Puppets from my dad.
Yeah.
He was just listening. He's like, this is really cool, and I was listening, and I was like, that's fine, yeah, it's cool. I still wasn't quite into it yet, and he listened to some stuff, and I think I listened to some Disturbed. That was my first hard rock band was Disturbed. New metal hard rock, and I was like, yeah, I get it, this is cool. And my brother got it, The End of Heartache by Killswitch Engage. I specifically remember that's a core memory, and I was hearing that, and it was the first time I heard the scream vocals, and I was like, I don't know how to feel about it. I wasn't quite there yet. And then just being around it from my brother and Wes and my dad wasn't really listening to that kind of stuff at the time, where I didn't really notice it because we didn't really talk about music. But just kind of gradually, right? So it starts with Metallica, Disturbed, Anthrax, Megadeth, which I wasn't huge on Megadeth, but I listened to them. They're old thrash metal. A little bit of metalcore, Killswitch Engage, All That Remains, kind of just
those are probably good bridges.
Scream vocals with clean choruses kind of thing, just kind of stuff. And then just Dimmu Borgir, Cannibal Corpse, it just kind of I guess what it really boiled down to, and it's kind of like a weird addiction thing, is you're looking for the next what can be harder, what can be
it is. Yeah, I compare it to drinking beer. I know you're not a real big beer drinker, but you've probably experienced this with some liquor. If you drink cheap beer long enough and you drink a good beer all of a sudden, oh damn, this is good, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're always wanting a little bit better quality. Yeah, you're always curious. Okay, well, if I like this, then what do I think about? Mm-hmm. It kind of does open up a Pandora's box in a way too.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun to be honest with you. I think it's pretty slippery. But yeah, I mean it's when you get used to one thing, then it's not heavy enough, and then there's a point where you almost regress, where I kind of still like this old shit that I listen to. Listen to more stuff like that, and then even new stuff like that, and you just end up going down a whole lot of avenues. To be honest.
And it's one of those things for me that was just kind of I can still listen to some lighter stuff, some cleaner stuff, and I still enjoy it. I can listen to stuff that I listened to when I was a kid and still enjoy it. I can listen to new stuff, really heavy stuff, really dark stuff, and I can enjoy it. It's just... Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, music's good, though. I mean, music in general is good. I think, because the nature of the podcast, it being a lifting podcast, even if we were rap fans or fans of electronic music, the chances of us talking about something more on the violent side of that, or more on the more aggressive side of that, I should say, probably pretty good because of the nature of this podcast. It doesn't necessarily encapsulate everything that I listen to.
Yeah.
I would say it is the majority of what I listen to, but it's definitely not all I listen to.
Just like you said, because it's a powerlifting contest and it is called PR songs, this is songs that get us riled up. It's something that you're
they
fight or flight
coming
senses,
from exactly. They are probably coming from a violent frame of mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At least to some degree, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's either, I toe the line between, and, some people would even consider it violent, but like a lot of times, like I lift really, really well with something a little bit more uplifting, and I might put something like Killswitch Engage on.
Yeah.
I know it's probably darker sounding than for a lot of people, but those are generally pretty happy, pretty uplifting lyrics.
Yeah.
So like, it depends on my need of the day for sure, but like for the most part, it is super aggressive music, regardless of what the content is. So,
Yeah.
Even if I listen to the rap in the gym, and I listen to a lot more rap than you do in the gym, probably. Same thing. I'm looking for something fight or flighty, something with some violent content, like
just aggressive.
It's aggressive, yeah, absolutely. I'm not listening to fucking Nelly in the gym. That's not fucking what I'm listening to. Like, somebody's dying, more than likely. You know what I mean? Or they're singing about things that's going to help me pull my head out of my ass, one or the other. But in general, regardless of content, it's going to be aggressive, more than likely.
The only other thing that I would say as far as my taste in gym music is that sometimes it may not necessarily be violent. It could still be considered violent, but like soundtrack music, orchestral music kind of stuff, like that stuff does tick a box for me.
Yeah.
Like, and it just depends on the situation, what I'm doing. This is gonna be like, I don't know, some people might think it's cheesy or something, but like the God of War theme song, like the whole soundtrack, like I fucking love lifting to that because there's just something about it. It's just the way. Oh,
it's imaginative, and it puts you in, it kind of does put you in the frame of mind of the context of those games and stuff like that, which are violent games.
Yeah, God of War is a very violent game.
You know what I mean? So
a little less so the newer ones, but still the old ones were extremely violent.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the catches of the game. It's like, you want to play something violent, play God of War. Kratos is literally going to rip a dude's head off, like clean with his bare hands.
Right.
Like that kind of shit. And then it was the God of the Sun. He ripped his head off and then uses it as a lantern.
Well, that was good. All right. You got anything to add about yours?
No, that's all I got.
Yeah, so mine, I grew up a musician. I started playing music when I was 8. I took lessons for about 6 months, and by the time I was 9, I was actively playing in a church every Sunday. I grew up Church of God, so while it's not as extreme of a Pentecostal church as maybe some, it is a Pentecostal church, super, super conservative. Played a lot of music out of just read back hymnals for a long time, and I had to learn how to do it all by ear. But my dad, he was a drummer for a long time, and I think in general musicians are interested in music. So even though me and him both were church musicians, we listened to a lot of secular music, quite a bit of it. Dad personally was an era. I have young parents, so a lot of the new things that they listened to was like grunge era. So I listened to a lot of Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam and stuff like that. And even later, my dad got into not real proud of these two, but like Godsmack and Limp Bizkit and stuff like that, like the new metal, probably the worst end of the new metal crowd, but that still got me listening to like Deftones and shit like that a little bit better at an early age. But all the while growing up playing in church, when I got to a little bit better, more contemporary of a Church of God, we started playing more and more like black gospel music and stuff like that. Things that were intellectually more challenging as a musician, if that makes sense. And then I had this double life when I started playing on a professional level, but started playing gigs out with various cover bands and even original bands when I was about 13. So I was playing secular music out Friday and Saturday nights, and Sunday morning I was playing at church. So I got exposed to a lot of different types of music. But the musical, just the intricacies of like black gospel music in the church made me more aware. And at that time, obviously, I'm a little older and I'm a little smarter at that point. It made me more and more aware of, like, I guess, the power of music in general. And it also made me more aware and more interested in the intricacies of music, if that makes sense. And then I think any musician are drawn to one or two things, if not both. And I was drawn to both. I got really, really big into jazz fusion, like funk stuff like that. As a bass player, I really loved all that stuff. that's an easy gap to bridge from black gospel music to stuff like that. It's honestly a lot the same. A lot of the same music, to be honest. At least idea wise, it is. But also it led me down a path because I already kind of had a little bit of a metalhead background from my dad. It led me to listen to more and more complicated metal music for the most part. So mine's mostly, at least it started as just an interest and a want to listen to more talented music. So whether it was listening to, exclusively black music, which was, funk and jazz and the blues and gospel stuff, like shout gospel stuff and everything like that, or if it was metal, I was just interested in intricate music in general. So, we live in a pretty much predominantly white county, so you start playing music out and stuff like that, most of the time it's going to be rock and metal bands. It just is what it is. There's not a lot of opportunity to go play. I can't really go play in a funk band in Coleman County, Alabama.
Yeah.
So, as a bass player and as a good one at that time, I cut my first record at I was 13 or 14 the first time I recorded. So at that time, that was, if you were a good musician, that's just what you got into. So, that's what I got into, and you acquire a taste for it pretty quick. And, my interest in it was mainly, I wanted tougher music to play. I wanted more challenging music to play. I wanted to be a better player. I practiced that stuff a lot, all those genres. And then now that I'm older, it's become more and more about the music itself and more about the attitude. I used to not really care, and I still really don't like other people. Music's not really about the lyrics for me. Like, if it's good music to me, I can get around lyrics. That being said, I find myself, especially being more athletically driven now, more and more geared toward content, what they're talking about. I do like a violent lyric. It just is what it is. It scratches the box for me. I find it very, very cathartic with my poor mental health. I'm a very, very empathetic person. Don't do a lot of harm by anybody. Take good care of people. But there is something cathartic about listening to music that talks about chopping people up and, dismemberment. And there's on the new Acacia Strain record, there's a lyric that says, "May the bodies I burn light my way," and that's that's fucking cool. But I don't feel those kind of things at all. But I'm so polar opposite personally. I don't have a violent tendency at all. I'm generally a pretty patient person. Definitely not narcissistic. I'm not very self-centered. So that music kind of almost a little bit being the opposite, or at least the content of it. Those people aren't, but the content of it almost being pretty much polar opposite is cathartic to me. It's like watching a horror movie. I would never want any of those things to happen to anybody ever, but still fucking fun to watch. Sorry. It is so, I think honestly, heavy music's helped my mental health out more than anything. It makes me really, really happy to listen to something just stupid heavy and stupid violent. I think that heavy music opened my eyes up about spirituality a lot, because there was definitely a point in my life, growing up in a religious household, music in general, especially live music, people feel very connected to live music. So these spiritual feelings that people feel when they're at church listening to the church band play their favorite praise and worship songs or favorite hymns or hymnals or something like that. If it's God to you, that's fine. I think that it probably is to a lot of people. But I can tell you that I think my biggest idea swap conceptually is as a musician and playing it. When I started getting the same feeling playing secular music that I did playing church music, I realized that it's not God. It's just the power of music's just that fucking good. It is a spiritual experience to get to play it for a lot of people, whether it's in a secular setting or in a religious setting. People's concept of God is different, so maybe that is God to some people, and maybe it is to me too. But that feeling you get when you're playing with something like that, or you're listening to something like that, I've experienced it in both a religious setting and a non-religious setting. So I'm here to tell you that there's just a spiritual connection I have to music, regardless of where I'm performing it at or who quote unquote I'm performing it for.
It's really interesting because
It's
like
the same feeling.
the entire time you're talking about that, I kept on thinking about this song by Machine Head, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but they basically are talking about the exact same thing that you're saying. It's
Yeah.
like music is kind of like their religion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that probably not so much like churches like Braxton goes to, because that's a very conservative church and very traditional church in a lot of ways. But like you see a lot of undenominational churches that I honestly take a lot of issue with here in the county. They spend a whole lot of money on production and stuff like that. And the reason they spend money on production in their music programs is because that godliness, that closeness, that spirituality people are wanting to feel isn't coming from the religion. It's coming from that live music experience. That's the truth. So if they can make it dark, if they can make it look like a concert, if they can sway your emotions, those are very emotional things you start playing with people. When you start playing with people's concept of, just even like light and like their like senses, you're starting to play with some people's senses when you start dimming lights and putting on light shows. And it's praise and worship music's it's all very washy. There's a lot of reverb in it. It's all, if you've ever listened to a seminal record, it's a secular record, but if you've ever listened to U2's The Joshua Tree, it's a very, very ambient record. There's a lot of things, very simple music, but there's a lot of things happening stereophonically that is really mesmerizing about that record, and really, really, it's a beautiful record to listen to. But like all new praise and worship music is basically U2 worship. I mean, they're copying it. And keep in mind, by the way, when I say U2 worship, that's like something metalheads say when a band sounds too much like Metallica. It's Metallica worship. Or, new death metal band comes around, they sound too much like Cannibal Corpse. It's Cannibal Corpse worship. So I'm not saying they're worshiping U2. I'm just saying they're ripping U2 off. But that very, very like ambient music and stuff like that, they're doing, that's specifically marketed to get people to feel a certain type of way. And to go with that live music setting, you dim the lights, it's dark inside, and you have this like super, super emotionally driven ambient music. Yeah, I mean, the chances of, if you have any soul at all, the chances of it, putting a tear in your eye is probably pretty fucking strong.
Yeah.
So, it's a big, honestly, I mean, the congregation is playing checkers and the people up there playing are playing chess. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's an emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
And I first noticed that, like I said, because I have the same emotional experience playing secular music as I do playing religious music. Yeah. I've been hired plenty to do both. So, yeah, it is what it is. The only music I would say I don't have any type of emotional connection to is just something I outright don't like. I don't even really have like much of a connection. If I'm playing a cover band, probably don't have much of an emotional connection to like country songs, stuff like that. And I don't really, I've been hired to play a lot of like Broadway and like plays and stuff like that. I don't really have much of, it's not like doesn't do something for my spirit to play those kinds of gigs, if that makes sense. But it is what it is.
Yep. That was a
complicated answer.
Yeah, it was felt like a tangent.
I'll say this too. In terms of the heavy stuff, another big thing that had an influence on me in terms of heavy music, and Nathan remembers this, and a lot of people may not, but there was a huge influx of Christian bands in the heavy scene in the early 2000s. There was a bunch of post-hardcore bands. Think of bands like Norma Jean and Under Oath, although I don't think Norma Jean is anymore.
Under Oath isn't either.
But bands like that claimed to be Christian bands at the time, were bands that I picked up on and started listening to at church, and they were a big introduction to more alternative style or more independent style heavy music.
As I Lay Dying,
Impending Doom. Yeah, I mean they even had their own, the Repentagram. Yeah, they had their own like pentagram logo that was made for Christian listeners. They called it the Repentagram. That's what they called it. I mean, there's a lot of those bands that were very much an introduction to heavy music for me, and they were at the time marketed as Christian bands. Killswitch really wasn't. The Killswitch, like especially the End of Heartache record, has a lot of biblical references on that record.
Lyrically,
lyrically a ton. Me and you talked about a song the other day that's near and dear to my heart. The whole album is about just various ways to die, but on Metallica's Ride the Lightning, Creeping Death is 100% a biblical story. Yeah. What's funny is I remember Tom Araya of Slayer talking about context mattering so much, but if Slayer talks about drinking the blood of the lamb or whatever you want to talk about in a non-religious context, they're satanic. But if you open up your hymnal, they're talking about drinking blood all the time. Like, so it's about a mental context. Like, you think it's bad, but like they're singing about the same shit everybody else is already singing about. Like, your church music's talking about the same things. So I think that for better or worse, the single most important book to all of heavy metal is the Bible. And you'll find references to the Bible, whether you like them or not, all across heavy music.
Yeah, whether it's like in I guess any sort of context, right? So they could be like, I'm trying to think that I specifically remember a band basically talking, or it may have been Job for a Cowboy, that did something where they were talking about biblical things in a different context, basically. Yeah,
sure. I mean, like, the most neutral context ever is Creeping Death. Like, they're talking about being basically the angel sent to take the firstborn son of the Pharaoh's nation. So, like, it's a pretty. They're not talking about it from a satanic point of view or anything like that. They're pretty much just retelling a story.
Yeah,
they're telling it from a specific point of view, but they're not like.
Yeah,
it's not like they're beating their chest about being Satan worshipers or being about Christians. Either one, they're just. It's just content. It's kind of brutal content. Like, don't believe me? Pick up the Old Testament, read it.
Yeah, there's a lot
of death in the Bible.
I forget, but there was some servant that the queen wanted his head on a platter, and they literally went there, chopped his head off, and brought it to her on a platter. And it's just like, that's kind of fucked up. You know what I mean?
It is.
That's brutal.
An incredibly violent book, whether for better or worse, and I don't fault anybody for believing what they believe in, but if you want to know how I got here, church is the number one reason I got here.
Yeah.
And not just because, I know it's probably easy to look at me and say, he hates church. No, it's because church was my introduction to a lot of this. Like, that's the truth. I mean, if I hadn't have been playing in church, I probably wouldn't have been as exposed to heavy music as I am now. I played in Christian metalcore bands when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It's cool to do that back then, though. So
it's not cool anymore.
Much anymore. We also wear women's jeans all the time. So I mean,
the old skinny jeans days. I never got into that phase.
That was before they made cuts for men that were similar. So I remember when I was a Hollister size 6 in high school.
I always wore baggy jeans.
I mean, I went through that too. You know what I mean? Like,
that was my whole thing. Baggy jeans or just like carpenter's jeans. Those were the only two things I
probably saw me in baggy jeans, circa Slipknot and Corn t-shirts or something. You know what I mean?
Fair. That is kind of the vibe.
That is definitely kind of the vibe. But yeah, I mean, by and large, it's church that got me here.
Interesting.
It is. It's
hopefully that answered some questions that people had.
I mean, that's about as in-depth of an answer as I can give you about how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah, mine was pretty short and sweet.
I mean,
that was.
Well, I know you dabbled in playing music, but playing music at the level I've played to and its importance to me and across my life is, I've had a lot of time to reflect on how I got here.
Right.
So, and I don't regret it. I don't think that listening to this music is bad for me, and my kid's going to grow up listening to it. I don't think it's going to be bad for her. I think by and large, metalheads are more intelligent than the rest of the population. I think that there's probably studies out there to prove that. Matter of fact, I think that I've read a few. You can Google it and find out.
But they will always reference the Mozart versus heavy music.
I can tell you this. Let me ask you something. You take a band like Between the Buried and Me. Do you think 200 years from now, when music scholars are studying music of our age, do you think they're going to be studying that, or do you think they're going to be studying a praise and worship band?
They're going to be studying Cardi B.
They're not going to be studying Cardi B. You know what I mean? But like, you look at like the musical genius that is like, probably giving them too much credit because they're a little cheesy, but like Dream Theater or Between the Buried and Me, orchestral music isn't necessarily dying, but it's dying to the general public.
Right.
There's a place for it in entertainment, but it's mostly movie scores and stuff like that now, right? Video game scores, a huge place for orchestral music. So when you go back and look at important music from our day, it's going to be music I listen to.
Right.
It's not going to fucking be Cardi B and Chris Stapleton and... I mean, it's not.
I completely agree because all that music is generally like fad music.
It is, and there is a place in music history for folk music and folk genres, and I'm sure some of that stuff is going to rear its head in some music history talk 200 years from now. But are people going to sit down, like in music school, I had to sit down and analyze Bach and Mozart and Beethoven pieces, brick by brick, break them down note by note, and look at chord progressions and melodies and harmonies and stuff like that they use in that music. Do you really think they're going to fucking do that with Hillsong United? There's 4 chords. There may be 4 chords on the album, let alone in a song. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's going to be 2 meters. They're going to play in 6/8 and 4/4, and that's going to be it. And like, there's not going to be. You might get 6 meters and as many measures in between the Buried in Me song.
Right.
And that's not to say that just exclusively makes them genius, but like, it's going to be musicians that push the envelope that get studied 200 years from now.
Right.
They're going to be remembered. It's not going to be who you think it is.
Yeah, there's a reason why Colors was so highly praised.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It was kind of like not necessarily the first of its kind, but it was one of the best of its kind.
It won't just be them. I mean, think about like I tell you a band that's remarkably good at making things sound simple, but what they're doing is actually absolutely so complicated it's hard to wrap your head around. Is Opeth.
Yeah.
But it makes it sounds so commonplace and so simple, just the way. But the harmonies are so complex in that music. It's seriously like bebop or jazz level harmonies that you just don't hear in present music at all, and they do it in a way that it's palatable and a normal person can listen to it and it just sounds like normal music to them to some extent. But what's actually going on is so complicated and so like Impressionism did that a little bit. Like you talk about like Claude Debussy and composers like that messed around with harmonies that were that complicated. But like, listen, man, it's not going to be what you hear on 103.7 or 102.1 or 102.5 that it gets studied 200 years from now.
Yeah.
It's not going to be what you hear on 93.7 on Christian radio that's studied 200 years from now. Some of the Bach stuff was, but, you know, people reference this all the time. You know, Bach was a church musician. He was a hired gun. Bach was so smart musically that he snuck things into his church music that were actually illegal in the church at the time and did them so smart and in such a beautiful way that nobody noticed. Like the use of a tritone was illegal. It was called the devil in music. That's what it was called. So that's just a diminished chord to us now. But at the time it was abolished in the Catholic Church. You couldn't use it but he did it in such a genius way. He hit it in dominant chords most of the time. But he did it in such a genius way that they never noticed, and he did it just to
mess with them,
just to fuck with them. Like he did. I mean, he always, like, good music. And this isn't necessarily a religious thing, but good music has always flipped a finger to the church. Always flipped a middle finger to the church. Here's a church musician actively flipping the middle finger to at the time probably the deadliest mob on the planet. In the Catholic Church. It was probably, at the time he was writing that music, it was probably the deadliest group of people on the planet. And he did not give a fuck. So, I mean, like, well, you know, look at it too. Church music's always, I just referenced, the Joshua Tree came out in the 1980s. That ambient style music that you hear in praise and worship music now came out in the 80s. The church is 40, they're 40 years behind officially. They're playing stuff that U2 played in the 80s. Like, they're not even keeping up with history. They're not going to be studied in history later.
Right.
You know, it's just not going to happen. So, and it's the same thing, honestly, for most pop music now, too.
Yeah, it's all
even good pop music that I like a lot. I like Silk Sonic, Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars's band. Fucking awesome band. They aren't doing anything that Curtis Mayfield didn't do first in the 70s, 50 years ago. So, like, I just doubt very seriously. You know, if you look at music from a serious point of view, I don't know that it's going to be looked at. What most people listen to is going to be looked at with any type of serious, you know, intellectual contemplation. Right. 200 years from now.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, what kind of music would be 200 years from now? What's the sound?
It may be dead.
Yeah.
Which I hope not. But
I don't think so. Music has been, it's been around since we've been alive. Like
well, you know, I think about like the advent of AI and stuff like that. Like, if you wanted, you know, there's AI stuff good enough now. If you wanted to print out sheet music for an album in the style of Colors but not colors.
Mm.
It could probably print you that out right now.
Right.
And it's like frustrating because of how many years it probably took to write that music.
But how good is it? Like, how good is the music?
You are missing soul.
Yeah.
You're missing inflection and stuff like that. And that's my problem with dance music now is like most things that are created solely electronically is missing. It feels like dance music feels robotic and mindless and soulless to me.
I think that's the point, right? That's the human element is the reason why music touches people. Yeah. It's not about the necessarily the notes and the combination in which they connect. It's about the human connection. It's about the human element. That's what makes a difference for music.
Yeah, and I realize that these people are having like real human connections at these shows and stuff like that are not even played, but press play by a DJ. You know what I mean? So I get that there is some human element getting achieved. But like, I mean, like even it just sounds like robotic and stuff. But also, you know, it's a matter, we talk about it with food all the time. We talk about it in politics. There's a reason why there's only two major parties here in the United States. It's the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I don't agree with either one of them. Mm-hmm. But those two things, having choice A or choice B is easy and convenient for people. Mm-hmm. Pop music is consumed the same way fast food is. People don't want to have to go out and look for good music. So they take it at face value, and 103.7 plays this. This means this song's cool. This is what I'm listening to. Like, there's a few more sources now, but like, you know, SoundCloud rappers. Like, that's a one-stop shop for people. That was easy and convenient for people to find new music for a little while. And it put a lot of bullshit on the map. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's like looking hard for good music anymore. And I say nobody, that's a general population. That's not all of us, but like, it's disappointing. Mm-hmm. So everything gets consumed the same way, whether it's politics, food, music. Fuck, your favorite sports team.
I was going to say like, entertainment in general.
Entertainment in general, it's all about ease and convenience.
Yep.
And your health now is about ease and convenience.
I can specifically just like think about like stuff used to be if you wanted to watch a TV show, you had to be there at a specific time on a specific channel to watch it. Nobody's going to do that anymore.
No, that's way too difficult.
If you can't stream it, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fair, right? Because like we've become so accustomed to it. It's like it should be available on stream at some point. So I'll wait, and if it doesn't, then I just won't watch it.
Yeah. That's, by another note, though, look how easy it could be to access new, good, artfully done music now, and it doesn't have to be genres that I like. Mm-hmm. But it's so easy. You have so much stuff at access, and it's still not getting consumed because it's still not. Because you know, your friend you go to the club with every Friday night don't like that, so there's it's not easy and convenient for you to just fall into that, right?
Right.
It's always something else. I mean, this is what it is. So I just don't know. I don't know what music looks like 200 years from now. And by the same exact token, and for the same reason, I don't know what fitness looks like 200 years from now.
Food.
Look at food. Look at a prime example of this is the Ozempic fad right now for people in weight loss.
Yeah.
Well, why are they buying it? Because it's easier than diet and exercise.
Yeah. Is it a shot or is it a pill?
A shot.
It's a shot.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to get a shot than it is to change your life.
Oh, it's a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, it'd be even easier. You know, metformin is a pill, but they don't hand it out like they do Ozempic.
Right.
Like, it's a lot easier to do that than it is to just fucking quit eating ice cream. Mm-hmm. You know,
ice cream is goddamn good.
It's fucking good. But like, you know, I mean, it's always ease and convenience.
Yep.
People, you lost 30 pounds on Ozempic. Oh shit, I need to go get on that shit too. Mm-hmm. Like, don't have to change anything about your day-to-day life. No need to be more disciplined or a better person or anything like that fitness brings people. Mm-hmm. Fuck it, we'll just do Ozempic. It's fine, whatever. And when that's done, that fad's over with, it's going to be something else.
Yeah. When they inevitably find some sort of horrible side effect that kills people or...
They already did, right?
Did they?
I think there's some like cancer links to Ozempic or something.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. I would have to... Hold on a second.
We'll just do some research real quick and...
Yeah, I don't want to talk out of my ass to you guys, so...
Yeah, definitely not. But I do think I remember hearing something about there was something, but I don't know. I feel like Lane Norton was talking about it. And again, this is just recollecting. I don't know for certain. I feel like he was talking about it, and there was something like it wasn't as serious as the claims had made it out to be, or something. The chances were really low. I can't remember specifically.
Kidney problems, allergic reactions, gallbladder problems, changes in vision, inflammation of your pancreas or pancreatitis is what that's called, low blood sugar, mild ones, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, constipation. And it has recently been linked to a very high risk of thyroid cancer.
So it was linked to cancer. So, well, what a surprise! Instead of
still easier than making the swap from 85-15 to 93-7 though.
But is living with thyroid cancer easier than?
Well, we talk about it all the time in fitness. You have to choose your hard.
Yeah.
Your diet can be hard, and you can have a long, healthy life, or you can have a short, unhealthy life, and that's going to be hard too.
Yeah.
So, you got to choose your hard. Some people just aren't willing to choose. Most people are willing to put off the hard.
Yeah.
And for the diet-wise, I'll be honest, for the most part, I have been. We've talked about that constantly. Mm-hmm. I'm aware. I'm not, neither me or you, you're more disciplined diet-wise, but we all do something like this. Like we're all participating in the ease and convenience and the here and now over the long-term right answer in some way. Mm-hmm. But kind of bullshit, man. Like, dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be, it may be the fall of Western civilization, to be honest.
I think one thing that's really interesting is like when people get really overweight, and sometimes they don't notice it immediately. Right? They don't notice how much everything hurts immediately.
Yeah, normal is normal to somebody.
When they're younger, especially if they get overweight when they're younger, they kind of like, they just don't really notice like, oh, this is just the way life feels. They don't know that life can feel better. And it's just really interesting that people will be like, oh, well, they'll be 25, 26, like.
I feel fine.
Feel great, they're like, oh, your blood work comes back good, even though you do need to lose weight, but your blood work comes back good. And then maybe 5 years down the road, oh well, starting to look a little worse. Are you my joints are starting to hurt a little more too. Like, no, well, you should probably lose some weight. Well, it was never a problem in the past. Well, that's because you were healthier, like you were younger, your body was
probably thinner. Even
probably so.
Yeah,
you probably did put on more weight because your metabolism slowed down as you got older.
Yeah.
That's one thing that has been somewhat of a blessing for me, is that my metabolism has slowed down a little bit.
Well, as a powerlifter and as somebody that was always a hard gainer, that's true. Yeah,
it's absolutely. Like, but as a kid, I was always extremely skinny. I had a super high metabolism. I could eat anything I wanted and I would never gain weight. And it took like force feeding to gain weight. And now, whereas when I was first starting, it took like, 4,000, 4,500 calories to gain weight. I can gain weight on 35 now.
Yeah.
There's a lot more muscle mass there, and movement's a little more, it works a little harder. I mean, I don't know. It seems like my metabolism has just slowed down as I've gotten older. And we're talking a 3-year difference.
Yeah.
From 26 to 29, I'm going to be 30 this year.
Yeah.
It's slowed down that much. 1,000 calories. You think about 1,000 calories, that's a lot of food.
It is. That's for some people, they probably died a little bit too stringently. It's a whole day's worth of food difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's wild, man. But people, like I said, people don't, if they can put off the hard, they're going to always put off the hard.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate.
And that's a shame. Yeah. So, it is what it is, man. That went off big time. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, like we were talking about the ease and convenience of music, leading people to having bad taste and not looking into those things. But ease and convenience is a poison that affects every aspect of our everyday life.
Yeah.
It does.
Ease of convenience of getting Burger King DoorDash to your house as opposed to cooking a steak.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
hell, you could cook a ribeye and it's that's the fattiest meal on the planet, just about.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be healthier and less fat than a fucking Whopper.
Yeah, for sure. So but you're not going to get a Whopper. You're going to get a double Whopper with cheese, extra mayo,
a
fries, and a large Coke.
Yeah.
Right? Because
absolutely.
Or maybe a milkshake if you're feeling.
You could actually have a better meal By the time you pay DoorDash, you could have a quality ribeye, probably 16 ounces of baked potato,
and a salad.
No red-blooded American is going to turn that meal down. And it probably, by the time you DoorDash, it's probably still cheaper than
Yeah, if you
a
cook
fucking ribeye.
If you cook it at home,
a pound of ribeye is still going to be cheaper.
You think about it, even the expensive pound of ribeye, you're probably spending like $18 on it for a pound.
That's every bit of a DoorDash order now.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a double Whopper with cheese, a large fry, and a large Coke, you're going to spend $18 on that.
Yeah, potatoes not going to cost you much. 5-pound bag of
you
potatoes. You
probably already got the butter, salt, and pepper in the refrigerator somewhere. Like, hell
salad,
yeah, you can do what I do.
bucks.
You can fucking skip the salad if you want to.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, you can eat better.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. A steak is, if you're cooking it correctly, if you don't fucking cook it to death, at a 550 degree grill, which 550 to 600 is ideal in my opinion. That's 3.5 minutes aside for a medium rare steak.
Yeah, and that's not a long time to cook, and you don't even have.
That's faster than fucking DoorDash.
Unless you're seasoning it or marinating it or whatever and letting it, sit.
Well, I'm a dry rub guy, so it's like, I'm gonna season it the way I want it, and it's gonna come to room temperature, and I'm gonna throw it on the grill for 3.5 minutes aside. That's it.
Yeah.
So you're talking 20 minutes in total.
Yeah, maybe. Now,
if you're like I said, if you're setting it out and let it come to room temperature before you put it on the grill like you're supposed to, it's 20 minutes.
If you're doing a potato,
a little bit longer.
Potatoes,
shit, dude. Forever. I've used this before when I was on the vertical diet. Box mashed potatoes. If you're willing to do skim milk and no butter, perfectly good macros, and you can get dozens of meals out of a big box of instant mashed potatoes. Is it your preferred potato? No, but at least it's done in fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you do like homemade mashed potatoes, I think it usually takes me like 15-20 minutes to do some homemade mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
So you think about that, that's still going to be better than eating French fries that have been in a deep fryer that's been fried 100 days in a row.
I am an absolute slut for fast food. So I know how convenient. That's a devil of mine that I am absolutely trying to beat. But I guess my point is it extends past just one thing. There's so many parts of our lives where we're going to reach for easy and convenient and now before we reach for something that's even slightly more hard.
Yeah.
I just told you you're probably eating, if you grill a steak, you're probably eating sooner than you would if you DoorDash.
Yep.
All right.
But
so you're really talking about, at that point, you're not even talking about the now. You're talking about just ease and convenience.
But let me tell you from this perspective, and this is a perspective that I have had in the past, I could be doing something else while I'm waiting for this food to come to me. It's not necessarily getting it sooner. It's the fact that
time is money.
I could be doing something else, and that's, I feel like that it could be a little bit of, it's a little bit of everything, right? There's I don't know how to cook. Well, it's not that hard. Watch a couple YouTube videos. You'll learn how to cook.
Literally follow instructions.
Yeah, it's not hard.
But
then it's my schedule's busy. I don't have time. Well, you can make time. Like you honestly can. If from my perspective, I make meals my 2 breaks at work. I make meals for all 5 days. I work 4 days, but I make it from Monday through Friday. Takes me about an hour to make meals for
10 meals.
Actually 15. I forget because I do my meal at the end of the night too. So an hour out of my Sunday for 15 meals.
Pretty easy trade-off.
You think about.
I bet that is better time than it might not be better. It might not be saving you time over DoorDash, but it's definitely saving you time over sitting in a drive-thru.
Yeah, you think about how long does a drive-thru trip take?
If you take
especially now,
10 minutes.
It could be even longer because you think about how understaffed they are now.
So you're talking about 2.5 hours total time for those 15 meals in a drive-thru line versus 1 hour cooking it yourself. So you're actually saving yourself an hour and a half. Yeah. You're going to sit at 10 minutes most places.
Yeah, at least. Just think about just driving.
Even
there. Just driving there.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get there too.
Yeah, not even counting. You think about you cook all this food, you have it prepped. It's in there whenever you're ready for it.
The glorious and wonderful Chick-fil-A is even a 10-minute wait sometimes in the drive-thru. So, still, like you said, you still got to get there and still got to get it home.
Yeah. Or wherever you're going, whether it's back to work or whatever, there's still that time frame that you're spending going and getting the food.
If you don't think it takes a long time to sit through a drive-through, work somewhere where you only get a 30-minute lunch and try to go get a fast food meal on your 30-minute lunch break and make it back to work on time.
That don't happen. You eat it on the way there. You get there, you eat it while you're driving back to work. And if you're not done, you're eating it as you're walking back into work.
Yeah.
You're not sitting there enjoying your lunch at work in the break room.
Yeah, how fucking miserable is that too? That's stressful.
Yeah. Because now not only are you stressing out because you're spending a fortune on fast food.
I guarantee you that's the person that says I don't get enough breaks at work or works too hard.
Mm-hmm. Probably so.
Is the one that spent all their break. They could have sitting on their ass like it's meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
They spent it, fighting traffic in a drive-through line for 2,000 calories of McDonald's to just be stressed out and piss their break away.
Yeah, and you just think about like stress raising cortisol, like it, like all around it. It's just more and more sounds like a terrible idea.
It does, yeah. I think it's harder and harder to justify the more we talk about it.
Yeah, there's so many more cons than there are pros.
We talked about it at the beginning of I don't know if we were rolling yet. I saw something on average a fast food meal is about $15 now,
Mm-hmm.
and on average right now a home cooked meal is still between like $3 and $4.
Yeah.
So like you're literally spending 5 times the money, and potentially 2.5 times the time, according to Nathan's math.
Now it does depend on what you're cooking and how you're going about it, but like I can tell you right now, I make steak, rice, carrots, and broccoli or green beans now every day. That's a staple meal in my diet. And then spaghetti with beef. I'm doing a little bit fattier, 85. And then just some sort of tomato sauce, just to like, because it's fairly lean for what it is. Sure. Like you might not think, oh, that's a lot of carbs and stuff, but I'm allowed to have a lot of carbs. I'm just not allowed to have a lot of fat right now. But I mean, super easy, doesn't take too long to cook. And then my other one, here lately I've just been doing a tuna sandwich because it's convenient. The macros are really good on it. But used to, I'd do like a thing of chicken and rice. I'd cook my rice all at the same time. I'd cut up some chicken, I'd grill it or shred it or whatever I was going to do. Maybe a vegetable with it. And then I've just been doing fruit with it. Fruit's super easy. You just buy it.
Yeah,
you literally just buy it.
All you gotta do is buy it. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you got a pineapple, you might have to cut it up. You can buy it cut up.
Yeah.
Fruit is so accessible. Like it.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and get more and more frustrated. I get frustrated with myself thinking about this. This very much is my problem. So it is what it is. I'm a motherfucker that'll have meal prep done and still go buy fast food. So, I mean, it's an addiction on top of that, man. Yeah. I mean, it really is.
Well, they do make it in a way that is so extremely palatable that like you just crave it.
Yeah, you're
the sugar.
You're like a fucking rat in a maze for that shit.
It's just like the combination of the salt and the sugar, like, is just extremely, like, you just want it.
Yeah.
Like I could think about it right now. Like, man, I could go to Wendy's and get like a Dave's Double. It's fucking good. Like, it just tastes good.
Yeah, it does. Tastes great. Well, we've done a lot of ranting this episode. We probably need to wrap it up.
That's going to be the whole episode. It's just we just ranted.
Rants.
We didn't have a clear.
We answered Braxton's question.
We didn't have a clear topic today, and that may have bled through a little bit, but it'll be the rant episode.
It's the rant episode. That's what it is.
But we still got to do dad jokes.
Yeah, I'm going to give you dad wisdom. I actually told it to you a while ago, but
okay.
Just for the record, it's considered training as long as you have gloves on, apparently, when it comes to beating your kids. So wear boxing gloves, Dad. I wish my dad would have wore boxing gloves.
But don't you have to give them boxing gloves too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have to have gloves for it to be fair, for sure. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. He's having a girl, by the way.
He's also having a girl.
I am also having a girl. Just to take that into consideration, it might be deemed a little less vile if it was a boy, but you put boxing gloves on and start hitting a little girl, man.
No, I don't think I'm not doing that. But
I wouldn't either. Just the thought of it makes me go, oof.
I got a feeling my little girl's going to whoop a lot of little boy ass, though, for
Oh,
a little
yeah.
while, probably.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So I did the smart thing that I said last week, and I saved a bunch of dad jokes that I found throughout the week.
Uh-oh.
So
You were prepared.
I was prepared this week.
Let's go,
I'm going
baby.
to give you a few. So, if you're feeling down, try drinking a pint of water before going to bed. It'll give you a reason to get up in the morning.
Great.
I've dedicated my whole life to finding a cure for insomnia. I won't rest until I found it.
That's probably pretty accurate.
Probably. So I went to a job interview, and the interviewer asked me what my greatest weakness was, and I told her, well, I'm a little too honest. Or him, excuse me. He said, I don't think that's a weakness. And I said, well, I don't give a fuck what you think. I guess this is the last one I saved, so we'll end it on this one. What do you call a deceased Finnish man?
I don't know.
Finished.
That makes sense. Waka waka.
Oh, those last two got me pretty good.
Finished.
I have to.
I remember there was a mutiny on Facebook, and I really hate this, but I'm gonna share this real quick. I caused a huge uprising on Facebook one time, way back in the day, because I'm not on Facebook now. I hate that fucking thing. This is like circa 2010 or so. Ryan Dunn from Jackass had passed away, and my status for the day was stick a fork in him. He's done. I spelled it D-U-N-N.
Yeah.
That caused some bedlam. I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That comment section was fucking brutal, dog.
Yeah. I imagine you got hit pretty hard by probably everyone on your friends list. At least 90% of them.
Well, this was my justification. Probably not that soon, but there's not a single person on that Jackass staff that would have laughed at that.
Oh yeah. They all would have thought it was hilarious.
He would have thought it was funny.
He would. If he
I did the best I could honoring him and that man at that moment, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh man.
It's just what it is. I think I couldn't make the same joke about Paul Walker. Because his last name wasn't done.
I feel like there was like a joke. No, it was Kobe. It was Kobe.
Yeah, but I guess that's where we're ending it.
I told you that one at the gym, and you were like, "Oh man, too soon." I was like, "Yeah, but it was fucking funny." So I wish I could remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember the context of it. I remember the context. I just don't remember the joke itself.
It was something about you can't say Kobe anymore, and I don't remember why. That was the whole joke. Can't say Kobe anymore. And then there was
something. I don't remember.
Something. Poor man, poor daughter. Rest in peace. He was great athlete, good person, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the most part he was.
Probably not a terrible person. Well,
he was a hard worker.
I don't know, man. You just don't know anymore. Like you could.
This is probably controversial. He did have some strong allegations brought up against him in the early 2000s.
Well,
it is what it is. Won't go into detail because everybody misses him. I think that is somebody that everybody genuinely misses.
Yeah.
He is one of those athletes that transcended the sport. Like even if you didn't give a fuck about basketball, you know who Kobe Bryant is.
You know who Kobe is. It's the same thing with like LeBron and Michael Jordan. Like,
yeah, basketball has a weird way of finding these like idols that transcend the sport.
Yeah, the only
it has a lot more casual fans than any other sport. I think.
I think the only baseball athlete to really do that was Barry Bonds. I can't think
Bonds. Well, a bunch of those guys like Bonds, McGuire. I think around here, I think about Chipper Jones as being
I
somebody that
name,
that's a household name, right?
Yeah.
But not too many baseball.
Seems like it's mostly football and basketball. That's kind of
basketball. Football gives us so many; it's almost hard to keep up with. But basketball just has had like 5 or 6 guys that doesn't matter.
Don't matter
if you like it or the sport or not. You know who they are, and you know they're fucking good at what they do.
Yeah.
Basketball's given us more of those individuals than anybody has. And then an odd one, I'm not the biggest fan because I hate the sport, but Tiger Woods did that with golf.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you didn't give a fuck about golf, and I absolutely don't, you got to think Tiger Woods was a badass back in the day.
Yeah,
he was. So
I mean,
it is what it is.
He just he basically won 90% of the championships he was in, right? Like for the
Some
longest
ridiculous thing. I don't
time,
know
he
that
just
it's that high,
like
but yeah, for a long time, like if
He
he
was
was playing, he
extremely
was winning.
dominant, yeah.
So
but this is not a sports podcast.
it's not.
Well, I mean, powerlifting is a sport. You don't need a whole topic to talk about powerlifting being a sport.
No.
But we won't go into that either. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Rate us 5 stars.
Even if you don't listen, give us a download, please. That helps our metrics somehow. I don't fucking know how the Spotify algorithm works, but downloads and likes and follows are what apparently we need. So
Should we leave the coasters here? Maybe.
I think I'm just gonna run it.
Oh, there
I'm
you
just gonna be like, hey.
I'm gonna take mine out while it's in one piece.
Okay.